Welcome to Kolbe Times. Omar, we're so excited to find out about you and learn more about your work. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
I am a psychiatrist and I am here in Portland, Oregon. But, I am originally from North Africa, a country called Libya. So I've been through some of the post-war repercussions after Mr. Gaddafi died and the civil war that started there. But even before then, I was working as an emergency room physician in Libya when my name came up to be arrested and thrown in jail for humanitarian activities. So I had to leave the country and go to the United Kingdom, apply for asylum, live the refugee experience, and then come to the US after I met my wife, who is a Libyan American. So coming to the United States was 5 months after September 11. So being an Arab and Muslim, it has been a very interesting experience with Islamophobia and racism. Many jobs that I qualified for were not offered to me, so I had to repeat basically medical school from the beginning and go to the University of Tennessee in Memphis. And then during my residency in Tennessee, I got accepted into the Harvard program for refugee trauma, which was a life-changing experience for me. I learned how to take care of refugees, and then the civil war in Libya started, the Arab Spring, went to Syria, went to Bangladesh to work with the Burmese refugees. And so I've been quite involved in the refugee cause and also in interfaith dialogue because I wanted to combat hate through, a civil discussion rather than through hate, because that will never get resolved. The third book, which I'm very proud of, is called Untangled. Untangled, how to break the cycle of trauma within a family. So if a family is exposed to trauma, how can we heal the family together rather than see each other as enemies and have the trauma break apart our family? Untangled, very, very briefly, is 5 components. If I go to a community, if I'm invited by an organization, a country, a government to present the model, the first thing is the psychosocial education. So if we are talking about Canada, we want to do something, we need to combat stigma. So we do that through multiple ways, online and offline and so on. The second one is a training of trainers. So building capacity, making sure that, if Omar is dead tomorrow, that this work will continue. So I train people and I leave the teams behind to continue this mission. The third one, which is extremely successful project before the pandemic, was safe spaces. So we invite the community for a friendly discussion. Usually food is involved. We provide transportation. We provide activities, play and art therapy for children, and dialogue discussion topics for adults. And we just provide them for a safe space once a month to come together and talk about topics that are important for them, both intra and intercultural, inter and intra-faith, and so on and so forth. And then the fourth component is building resources that are culturally humble. If a community is asking for intervention, crisis team, I have the capacity to and the expertise to build that with them. Of course, I come very humble and try to listen to the community. I don't dictate my approach or my agenda. I rather see what are the current available services, what are the gaps, and how can we together take care of the gaps. If a team is interested in a hotline, we can do that too. We can create a hotline that can be very helpful to the response team and so on. And the last one, which is the tip of the pyramid, if you like, very few people will like to or qualify for a specific interventions. So psychotherapy, medication management. So I was, part of building clinics around the country and around the globe, small mental health clinics that are culturally aware and sensitive and respectful. So this is Untangled very briefly. I think, that model has been extremely successful, and got exposed to a number of speaking engagements. One of them was in the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and the Mormon church was attending the lecture. So the LDS church gave me a $50,000 grant to replicate the model that I'm doing in Portland, Oregon, and Salt Lake City, Utah, and other parts of the country. So I did even expand to, Mississauga, Canada, and other parts of, the world, including my home country after I went back. And I think we are on the right time. We are getting out of the pandemic, hopefully, the fourth wave of whatever virus is going on. So I think this is the right time to do psychosocial prevention before we end up with late interventions that are more costly when it comes to money and the human lives. It has been a blessing to see it replicated in many countries. And I mean, if I can be part of healing one human being, it will be worth it. This is the last thing I heard from my mom when she was leaving this world. She said, if you can heal one human being, don't hesitate to do it. Whenever you are going through burnout, it's not only your body that's aching, it's mainly your soul. And our soul aches when we hear trauma of others and when we go through traumatic experiences that are very intrusive, like sexual violence or torture, or somebody touched me without my permission. And then very recently, because of the pandemic, losing number of my coworkers for suicide and addiction, and some leaving their jobs, leaving the industry. I wrote a book called The Wounded Healer. It's going to be released in 6 weeks. And that book is going to talk about taking care of the caregiver. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of spirituality. It doesn't have to be structured religion, doesn't have to be Islam. Specifically, if we're going to expand this, we need to respect that people practice their faith and spirituality on a spectrum.
Well, this is sort of the elephant in the room, but it's probably the biggest, most important part of what we're looking at, isn't it? The healing of people's souls.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for opening up not just your schedule, but your heart and your mind to me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And anytime, reach out, please.